After my sister slept with my husband, I cut them off. Years later, they begged me to care for their son after car crash. I, 37F, have been divorced for a little over 3 years now. My ex-husband, Ryan, 38M, had an affair with my younger sister, Emily, 33F, while we were still married, and that betrayal completely destroyed our relationship. Ryan and I met when I was 26 at a party through mutual friends, and we started dating shortly after. We were together for almost 4 years before he proposed, and not long after that, we got married. We had been married for just over 5 years when I finally discovered that he had been cheating on me with my own sister. Ryan first met Emily about 7 or 8 months into our relationship, when I brought him home for a family dinner. By that point, we were serious and had already talked about a future together, so introducing him to my family felt natural. I had already met his family, which consisted only of his parents, since he didn't have any siblings. My family, on the other hand, was much larger. I'm a middle child. Our oldest sibling is Mark, 41M, and he's pretty much the only person from my family I still speak to regularly now. That first dinner went smoothly. Ryan got along with everyone, but he especially clicked with Emily. They quickly discovered they shared similar tastes in TV shows, books, and even food. They bonded easily, and at the time, I thought it was harmless and even kind of sweet. I had no idea what it would eventually turn into. Over time, they became close friends, and I was genuinely happy that my husband fit in so well with my family. Back then, Emily and I were also close, partly because we were closer in age than either of us was to Mark. We'd sometimes go on double dates with our respective partners, and I honestly believed we were building good memories together. Emily had a series of short-lived relationships while Ryan and I were together. She'd often bring a different guy around and would even joke that she wished Ryan had a brother so she could date him instead. She frequently commented on how perfect Ryan was and how lucky I was to have him. I always brushed it off as playful compliments because I trusted her completely and never imagined there could be anything inappropriate behind those comments. When Ryan proposed and we eventually got married, Emily seemed happier than anyone else. She was my maid of honor at the wedding, which makes everything that happened later hurt even more. A little over 5 years into our marriage, I discovered the truth. The two of them had been sleeping together behind my back. Before anyone asks, there were no obvious warning signs. I trusted Emily more than anyone in the world, and I trusted Ryan too. I truly believed neither of them would ever do something like that to me. For most of our relationship, Ryan and I appeared solid. We had disagreements, but nothing that felt unusual. The biggest issues were that he wanted children, and I wasn't ready for that, and that he wanted me to slow down at work. That wasn't realistic for me, since I earned more than he did, and our lifestyle depended heavily on my income. He thought I was too focused on my career and wanted me to be more laid back, but I couldn't make him understand how important financial stability was to me. I'm an investment banker, and my job is demanding, but I genuinely love what I do. Ryan works in marketing. He's good at it, but he never had the same level of ambition or dedication that I did. I never complained about that. My career fulfilled me, and from the very beginning of our relationship, I had been clear that I didn't want children. I wasn't emotionally or mentally ready to be a mother, and I believe it was better not to have kids at all than to have them and regret the decision later. Still, he assumed I would change my mind after marriage. Those two issues caused most of our serious arguments, but we always seemed to work through them. We fought, we talked, and we made up. I believe we were committed for the long run. Up until about a week before I found out about the affair, Ryan still told me he loved me, and I had no reason to doubt his loyalty. At least, that's what I believed back then. About a week after Ryan and I celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary, my entire life fell apart. What makes it worse is that on the actual day of our anniversary, he acted completely normal. We were guests of a small gathering, and he was affectionate, attentive, and sweet, making it seem like I was the only person in the room that mattered to him. Looking back now, the contrast between that version of him and the truth makes me sick. A couple of days later, I was getting ready for an upcoming work event and was looking for a specific blazer. I searched my wardrobe, but couldn't find it anywhere. Thinking I might have accidentally put it away with Ryan's clothes, I went to check his wardrobe. While rummaging through the back, my hand caught on a bag that had been shoved far behind everything else. It wasn't something I recognized, so out of curiosity, I pulled it out and opened it. Inside were women's clothes. At first, my brain refused to process what I was seeing. Then, as I went through a few items, it hit me all at once. I'd seen these clothes before. They belonged to my younger sister, Emily. I stood there in complete shock, unable to come up with a single innocent explanation. Nothing made sense. My hand was shaking, and for the first time in our entire relationship, I felt compelled to do something I had never done before. I checked his phone. Ryan and I had always trusted each other. We never went through each other's devices, and we'd never given each other a reason to. But in that moment, I knew that if I confronted him first, he would have time to lie, delete things, and twist the story. So I unlocked his phone and went straight to his messages. When I opened his chat with Emily, the most recent messages looked harmless enough. But when I scrolled up, my stomach dropped. The tone changed completely. They weren't talking like siblings or even friends. They were flirting, being intimate, and making plans to meet up. Suddenly, all of his late nights and unexplained absences made sense. From what I could tell, the affair had been going on for at least a couple of months. By some horrible coincidence, Emily came over for lunch that same day. So I confronted them together. I showed them the bag of clothes I had found and the messages on Ryan's phone and demanded an explanation. I was expecting denial, panic, maybe even apologies. Instead, they looked annoyed. They told me it was none of my business and that I needed to stay out of it. That response broke something in me. If your husband is sleeping with your sister, I think that very much qualifies as your business. I completely lost it. I screamed at both of them, demanding to know how long this had been going on and how they could do this to me. They didn't care. Ryan had the nerve to tell me that since I refused to give him a child and didn't spend enough time with him, he felt forced to look elsewhere. That was rich, considering I was the one financially supporting our lifestyle, while he enjoyed all the benefits without ever wanting to compromise. Emily then added that I should actually be grateful he kept it in the family, because it would have been even more embarrassing if he'd slept with someone else. They made it clear they weren't planning to stop. In fact, now that I knew, they saw no reason to hide it anymore. They admitted they'd only kept it secret to avoid drama and were waiting for Emily to get a promotion so she could move away. Ryan planned to follow her afterward. Finding out early just sped things up. There was nothing left to say. Neither of them felt guilty, and I knew immediately that there was no coming back from this. I filed for divorce shortly after. When I told my parents, they cut Emily off completely. My older brother, Mark, 41M, did the same. No one in our family defended her or tried to excuse what she had done. A few weeks later, Emily moved to Pennsylvania, about a 9-hour drive away. Once the divorce was finalized 3 months later, Ryan followed her. He didn't contest anything and left everything to me without a fight. I assume he believed that now that he was with Emily and with her new promotion, money wouldn't be an issue for him anymore. He just wanted everything over as quickly as possible. And honestly, I was glad he didn't drag it out. Since then, no one in my family has had any contact with Emily. We don't know where she is now or what she's doing, and none of us care enough to find out. Even friends who still follow her know better than to mention her to me. As far as I'm concerned, she no longer exists in my life. 3 years have passed since everything blew up, but I'd be lying if I said I was fully healed. What Ryan and my sister Emily did to me changed me permanently. I was reminded of all of it a few days ago. Out of nowhere, Ryan called me. The number was unfamiliar, but I've had the same phone number for years, so I didn't think much before answering. The second I heard his voice, I knew I should have hung up immediately. But curiosity got the better of me. He sounded desperate, shaken, almost panicked. Without apologizing or even acknowledging the past, he got straight to the point and asked for my help. The audacity alone was shocking, considering we hadn't spoken in 3 years and didn't exactly part on good terms. Ryan told me that Emily had been in a serious car accident a couple of months earlier. She had fractured both her legs, her arms were badly bruised, and she was completely bedridden. On top of that, they had a 2-year-old son who needed constant care. According to him, he was overwhelmed. He said he had already asked his friends for help, but none of them were willing or able to take on that level of responsibility. He was working full-time and trying to earn more money now that Emily couldn't work at all. Taking care of an injured wife and a toddler at the same time was too much for him. They had considered hiring a full-time nurse, but apparently, it was too expensive for the area they lived in. So they turned to family. My parents had already said no, claiming they were too old. His side of the family wasn't an option either. His father had passed away the year before, and his mother lived in Canada with her sister. My older brother, Mark, 44M, had also refused to get involved and made it clear he wanted nothing to do with them. Ryan said the only person they trusted enough to help was me. At that point, I finally had my moment. After he finished explaining everything, I calmly told him that I couldn't help because it wasn't my business. I used his exact words from 3 years ago. Then I hung up. I blocked his number and didn't even bother hearing his response. My brother Mark thinks I did the right thing. He didn't hesitate to say that I owed them absolutely nothing. My parents, on the other hand, completely disagree. They keep telling me that 3 years have passed and that I should be over it by now. They say Emily is going through something terrible and that I should be there for her, especially because a child is involved. I don't understand their logic at all. They think I'm being stubborn and selfish. I think they're being ridiculous for expecting me to step in after what those two did to me. I do feel bad for the kid, I really do, but he's not my child and not my responsibility. After a few days of nonstop pressure, I made it clear to my parents that my decision wasn't changing. That's when they told me they were cutting ties with me as well, saying they couldn't believe I'd act this way while Emily was so badly injured. What's hard to believe is that they think I should let myself be used again. They betrayed me once, and I'm not letting them walk all over me a second time. It's that simple. I haven't spoken to Mark about this yet since he's been busy with work and just started a new project, but I already know he'll support me like he always has. As for Ryan, Emily, and their son, I genuinely hope they figure something out for the child's sake. But it's not my problem to solve. Update 2. It's been about a week and a half since Ryan tried to contact me again. I blocked him immediately back then, and so far, he hasn't been able to reach me directly. However, according to my brother Mark, they've been relentlessly trying to get in touch with him instead. Ryan keeps calling, and even Emily has been messaging him nonstop. Mark has ignored every single message. He leaves them on read and doesn't respond. We spoke a few days ago, and he told me he's made a decision of his own. He's done trying to maintain a relationship with our parents as well. According to him, they've been unreasonable, manipulative, and incredibly selfish through all of this. Ironically, those are the exact things they keep accusing me of. Now they're completely on their own. They don't have me, and they don't have Mark either. Technically, they still have a chance to make things right with Emily, but I highly doubt they're going to step up and take responsibility for helping their child. That's just not who they are. My parents are the kind of people who like to say they love their family, but they never actually go out of their way to help anyone. I've seen this pattern before, especially when it comes to Mark's kids. A few years ago, Mark's older son fractured his wrist badly after falling at a playground. He was around 4 years old at the time. Mark's business was struggling back then, and after the cast came off, his son needed physiotherapy to regain proper movement. Mark asked our parents for a loan to help cover the costs. They refused. Their excuse was that they were getting older and needed to save for retirement, and that they couldn't just give money away like charity. Mark didn't argue or push the issue because he didn't want to seem entitled, but I remember thinking how cold and selfish that was. So honestly, it doesn't surprise me at all that they aren't helping now. This is exactly who they've always been. I just hope they remember all of this in the future when Mark and Emily inevitably refuse to let them have access to their grandchildren. If they believe their own children aren't entitled to help, then they shouldn't feel entitled to a relationship with their grandkids whenever it's convenient for them. That's just my opinion. As much as I dislike Emily and want nothing to do with her, I do hope that things eventually work out for the sake of the child. No kid deserves to grow up in the middle of this mess. But beyond that, I'm done. Update 3. This is going to be a long one. Almost 2 months have passed since I first found out about Emily's accident. I still haven't heard from her or Ryan directly, but I've stayed in touch with my brother Mark, and he's the one who's been updating me on everything. I told him I was okay with that. Honestly, I didn't feel great about the situation. I don't like Emily, and I absolutely despise Ryan, but I'm not heartless enough to wish something terrible on them either. Their 2-year-old son had nothing to do with what they did to me. Because of that, I encouraged Mark to stay in touch with Emily and respond to her messages if she reached out. If she needed help, he could help her. I already drew my boundary. I refused to get involved, and that was my choice. I don't need to take things any further than that. Families are complicated. No matter how much someone hurts you, wishing disaster on them just isn't in my nature. I know people can be judgmental, so I feel the need to explain my reasoning, but at the end of the day, I just wanted peace of mind knowing my nephew was okay. That's all that mattered to me. About 2 weeks ago, Mark finally reached out to them to check in. Emily told him things were really bad. They've been relying heavily on daycare to take care of their son, which was extremely expensive because of the area they live in. Driving hours every day wasn't an option since Ryan still had to work. Emily couldn't take care of herself at all. On top of that, they were falling behind on rent and were at serious risk of eviction. The only reason it hadn't happened yet was because of her injuries. The landlord had given them a temporary extension, but once that ran out, they'd either have to pay everything or leave. She had no idea where the money was going to come from. She asked our parents for help. They refused. Again, same excuse. Saving for the future. This time, Emily completely lost it. She told them she was done and cut them off entirely. And honestly, as messed up as it sounds, I think she made the right decision. They're toxic, but so are our parents. It's honestly a miracle that Mark and I turned out the way we did, considering the environment we grew up in. From this point on, our parents won't have access to either of their grandchildren. They won't have access to their kids either. I'm not speaking to them. Mark isn't speaking to them. And now Emily isn't either. They're on their own, and I don't feel bad about it. As for Emily and Ryan, Mark and I talked things through. I told him that while I personally want nothing to do with them, I wouldn't stand in his way if he chose to help. My conscience wouldn't allow that. He admitted that he hadn't been speaking to Emily because of what she did to me, But at this point, it was hard to stay angry. She's in a terrible situation, and more importantly, his nephew is suffering. Their son has been having a really hard time emotionally, and Mark couldn't ignore that. So we agreed that he would send them some money every month until they could get back on their feet. I'm actually glad he's doing it. When Mark went through a rough time years ago, no one stood up for him. Our parents did nothing. I helped where I could, and even Emily helped back then, despite everything. None of us were in a great position financially, but we still tried. Our parents, on the other hand, were well off. They could have helped. They just chose not to. So now, I guess this is Mark returning that kindness, regardless of what Emily did to me. I'll never fully move on from the betrayal. That damage is permanent. But my biggest concern was always my nephew. Now that I know he has some support, I can finally step back completely. I don't want anything to do with Emily or Ryan. That I wish them well for the sake of their child. But I'm done. This feels like the closure I never got, even after the divorce. I finally feel free. I'm focusing on my career, my life, and my future. I'm no longer surrounded by toxic people, including my parents. I'm single, that I'm at peace, and I have a lot to live for. Thank you to everyone who followed my story and supported me through this.